Welcome to Sports Biz with LD. I'm your host, Larry Davis. Let's get right into it. March Madness, and boy, was it madness. Two number 3 seeds upset by number 14 seeds. UAB defeated Iowa State 60-59. Now, the Yahoo brackets had Iowa State in the Final Four, including Andy, our producer. How about that, Andy? That's the way it goes, buddy. You're out already. Georgia State shocks Baylor 57-56. R.J. Turner with a three-pointer with 2.6 seconds left. Gotta love that. And then UCLA defeats SMU. Now, UCLA was a number 11 coming in. A lot of people felt they shouldn't even belong in the tournament. SMU, coached by the great, and I mean the great, Larry Brown, as an NBA and collegiate coach, a completely bogus goaltending call, but legally it's right. By the book, it's the right call, but it was just like, you got to be kidding me with that call. I mean, if it's the right call, which everyone's saying, there's nothing you can do about it. Should it be changed? Should they look at that play? I mean, it's a three-pointer by Steve Alford's son. I mean, how cool is that his son's playing for him at UCLA, and Steve Alford was the great, great point guard for the Indiana teams, for Bobby Knight, when they went undefeated, last team to go undefeated. And now Steve Alford's over at UCLA, and his son's playing with him. I mean, what's better than that, father-son combo? 5 one-point games out of the 16 games. I mean, wow, that is March Madness. That is why this is up there with the Super Bowl, and I think it's more than the Super Bowl, or more bets go on March Madness than any sporting event, because you got all these games, all these different ways to bet, and all the brackets. You could bracket bet, you could straight up bet, you could, halftime bets. I mean, there's so much to go on. That's why it's in the billions of dollars of gambling with the NCAA March Madness. Now, of the 11.5 million brackets on ESPN, because of what happened in the first couple of days of March Madness, only 273 remain. Think about that. 11.5, almost 11.6 million brackets on ESPN, and only 273 are left after the few upsets, and just unbelievable. That's what it is, man, and it's going on right now as we're taping. March Madness, you gotta love it, because you watch the game, you're in or you're out. That's the love of this. It's not 2 out of 3, it's not 3 out of 5, it's not a 4 out of 7 game series. One and done. Gotta love March Madness. Let's stick with something that just, I can't get it out of my system here. Jim Boeheim. I mean, listen, I spoke about it last week, and here we are a week later, and the only reason why it's in the news is because Jimmy decided to do a press conference. He's decided that he wants to stay on another 3 years. He says it's the right time to retire. And I quote, "This is far from a program where student athletes freely committed academic fraud," Jim Boeheim said. Huh? Jim, they were watching you for 10 years. He goes to this press conference, he still doesn't admit a thing. So he's saying everything was perfect. They're totally wrong. Like, he doesn't think in a 10-year investigation they didn't speak to everyone. All these supposed ineligible players. I'm sure they spoke to them, right? And they spoke to these players, and what they tell them. Or they spoke to faculty, and people told them that they're ineligible. I mean, where does Jim think this came from? And they're doing it for 10 years. The NCAA is like the FBI. They're not going to make mistakes. They're not going to come out there and embarrass themselves because it's Jim Boeheim, the great Jim Boeheim. I mean, here's another quote, from Boeheim. He says, "There was no way I would ever run away from investigation of the progress. I had no plans to coach this long. This investigation has made it that he has to." Why? Because you can't go out like this? "I love coaching," he says. And you can coach as long as you can, as long as you're effective. That's true, if you do it the right way. He said, I thought I was effective this year. I don't think I was as good as I would have liked to have been, but I think I was effective. If I'm not effective, I'll be gone. I mean, is he kidding? I mean, let's go back to the infraction. Bam enters next season now with a career record of 858 and 333. 108 wins were taken away. 108 wins. Those 108 wins, maybe we got fired. Maybe we weren't able to write the book that everybody loved. Maybe we wouldn't have helped him win a national championship. Maybe we wouldn't have helped him make millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars for himself and the school. And who's the scapegoat? The AD, Darryl Gross. He's out. They fire him. So he takes all the heat. Now they're trying to say, here's the accomplishments that he did. He got them from the Big East to the ACC, brand new building practice facility for basketball, football, and lacrosse. Anybody could have done that, the AD at Syracuse, with all the money going in there. He did that? What do you think, that position didn't get it done? It was him who made it all happen? So he gets fired, the chancellor president stays, and Jim Boeheim's still there. I mean, and I can't believe it sounds like I'm the only one who's talking about, are we kidding here with Jim Boeheim? I was watching on SNY, Loudmouths, and Adam Shine, who graduated there, it's like, oh, it's Jim Boeheim. It's Jim Boeheim. You know, oh, he's the great. He's the great. Look what he did. He cheated. Why is his cheating? It's okay. Everybody acts like it's not a big deal that Jim Boeheim cheated. That's what he did, but it's okay. He cheated 108 wins. 108 wins he cheated. And they're saying now that Mike Hopkins, his longtime assistant since 1996, will become the head coach. Now, no one's saying this either. Where was Mike when all this was going on? Was Mike a part of it? Did Mike know about it? I don't know. If he's with him since 96, you would think your main guy, your main assistant coach, your number one guy, who's with you every second of the day as much as he can be, would know what's going on? Because Jim's acting like he didn't know. Again, I love it. Nobody knows nothing. So did Jim not know, Mike not know, and only the one to know is the AD. How does the AD know what's going on with all that stuff? Well, he should. Jim Boeheim should. Mike Hopkins should. But now Mike's going to take over, and he's going to learn what he learned from Jim Boeheim. And I'm not saying he's going to do the same thing. Hopefully he learned from Jim's mistakes. But Jim is up there at the podium yesterday. I'm going to fight this. Of course you're going to say you're going to fight it. And you're going to stay another 3 years and make you millions of dollars and everything's great. My problem here is, again, he's not admitting any wrongdoing at all. Nothing. He did nothing wrong. It's a witch hunt. I can't believe they're coming after me. And that's what everyone else is saying. Everyone is agreeing. It's like it's a Teflon thing, Syracuse. No one's going after them in the media. I'm telling you, I haven't heard anyone talk the way I'm talking. I'm not trying to act like I'm something, but I haven't heard anyone talk the way I'm talking. That this is just unacceptable, and he gets to go out on his own terms. And another 3 years. What's going on here? Why'd you even do it? Listen, I would think the NCAA, if they knew, if everybody would be behind them and no one would even agree with them, what would you have? Why is Jim Boeheim any different than a guy who took PEDs? Can't compare him to A-Rod because A-Rod lied and fought his way to line. But any other guy who took PEDs, that was cheating. And we vilify them. But we're not even close to vilifying it. They're like putting Jimmy Bam on a pedestal. I mean, I know I've said it, but I cannot believe that everyone is acting like it's not a big deal. No big deal at all. Because he's Jim Boeheim and he wouldn't do it, and the NCAA has no idea. No idea what happened here. That's what Jimmy's saying. But Darryl's gone. He left. I wonder if they do something with him. I wonder if he ever gets an interview, Darryl Gross. Will he say what he knew? Will he ever get another job? It's another thing. Jim Boeheim has been there almost 40 years. Gotta love it. I love it. Student, coach, everything. Love it. But he did stuff wrong, but it's okay. Because he's Teflon Jim Boeheim. Unacceptable to me. It really isn't right at all what he did. But everybody's saying it's okay. He's got, at the NCAA, like I said, 108 wins. The NCAA ruled ineligible players participating during 5 seasons, 2004 to 2007, 2010 to 2012. Now, again, like I said, he's had the assistant coach there since 96. He didn't know anything? The program has lost 12 scholarships over the next 4 years, 3 per season, and is under probation for 5 years, and only 2 coaches can recruit off campus between January 1st, 2015 and through May 31st, 2017. Big deal. And they let Darryl Gross go, but he's not fired. He spent 10 years as the university's athletic director. He will now become vice president and special assistant to the chancellor. An adjunct professor. I mean, are you kidding me? So basically, he becomes a vice president. So basically, the university is saying, it's no problem, we cheated, we got caught, you guys did a lot of things that aren't right, because we're here about collegiate sports, we're supposed to teach the kids the right from wrong, and we're keeping the whole team together. Jim Boeheim stays, Darryl stays, the chancellor stays, the assistant coach, Mike Hopkins, stays. No big deal. Everything's fine. Like nothing ever happened. I gotta tell you, I just don't get it, what is going on, but I guess I'm the only one out there who's got a big problem with it. You know, let's move on. Let's talk a little hockey. I brought it up a little bit last week. The King, Henrik Lundqvist of the Rangers, is getting close. Skating, he's ready. He's getting close to being in a game. Rangers in first place in the Metropolitan Division with 95 points. They are just playing on all cylinders. 5 ahead of the Islanders. The Islanders were the talk of the league. You know, again, because, you know, they played so poorly the last 4, 5, 6 years. I mean, you know, a couple of years ago they did make the playoffs. But so Cam Talbot, as we know and I've been saying, has been phenomenal. Just phenomenal. As Henrik has been recovering from the sprained blood vessel, got hit right in the neck, and interesting, right on top of the jersey, right underneath the mask on January 31st. Talbot in Lundqvist absent is a ridiculous, a sparkling 13-3-3, but a 2.20 goals against average. Now, before the injury, again, let's be fair, Lundqvist was 11-1 in the 12 games before the injury. I mean, that is ridiculous, too. Overall, he's 25-11, 3 ties, 2.25 goals against, .922 save percentage. Very impressive. Who should start? I had the conversation with Andy, our producer, and he says Lundqvist, and he was vehement about it. He was all over me. I say Talbot. Andy's saying that Lundqvist is the clear-cut number 1 when he returns. Why? Has enough games to get himself back into game shape before the playoffs. And he's like, he's got the big contract that doesn't sit on the bench, getting $8.5 million a year. And I didn't know he's got a full no-trade clause, because I was going to bring up, what about trading the King? I know everyone's going to go crazy on that, but now Talbot's 27 years old. Can Talbot carry that load? On the other hand, what has the King done? Dominant player, no doubt about it. What is being in New York, as we learned from George Steinbrenner, Mr. Steinbrenner, it's all about the W's in the playoffs, winning a cup, which unfortunately the King has not done for the Rangers. Last year, let's not forget, he played unbelievable, but also it's definitely 2 and maybe 3 times, and I brought this up in last year's playoffs on the show, that he let up a 2-goal lead. Again, 2 times, maybe 3 times against the Kings. Twice the Rangers had 2-goal leads. So that means he let up 3 straight goals. Sorry, you got to protect the net. I know you're going to be like, oh, the shots were unbelievable. That's what an unbelievable save is. He's got to make that unbelievable save, and he didn't at least twice, 3 different times. Am I saying Talbot could have? I don't know. But hockey playoffs is hot goaltending. That's what it's all about. I say you keep Talbot, you get the King ready, you let Talbot continue to do this run, Now listen, once the playoffs start, let's see what Talbot can do. Maybe he gets nervous, maybe he doesn't play well in the playoffs. What if he does? Hot goaltending has always been what's made it in the playoffs. Not the best goalie during the regular season, not the greatest goalie anyhow over the course of X amount of years, but the guy who's the hottest when it matters, and that is April, when the playoffs start in the National Hockey League. I just see that I ride that Cam Talbot, and if he doesn't play well, starts to play up with him. If he doesn't play well, you bring in the King, no problem. Then you give the King the reins, give him the Nets back, and the Kings takes you to the Cup, hopefully to the finals and to win. And then let me tell you something. If he didn't have a no trade clause, I was ready to throw out there, if Talbot continues to play, what if Talbot plays great and they win the Cup or go to the finals and he just stands on his head and plays unbelievable? Would you trade the King? I mean, you'd get back, no pun intended, a King's ransom for him, a number one goal in this league. You wouldn't get it for Talbot because he's 27 years old, and goalies just don't command that kind of guys if they're not at the King's level. The King would get a couple of studs back at least. So I don't really know, which is correct. I know the way I'm thinking. Love the King. You cannot not love the King. It's interesting. I was at a charity event last night for the JCC in Long Island at the Glen Oaks Club, and we had Paulie Walnuts from The Sopranos and Steve Sharippa, who Steve told me he's going to come on the show, so I might have Steve on the show next week. And Steve and I were talking about it. I threw that out at him, with the King and Talbot and all that stuff. And he said, Larry, it's interesting. And Stevie's always at the Garden for the Knicks and the Rangers, a huge MSG guy. And they're doing a big event this week for the comedians, and he's hosting it. You go on MSG. I think it's sold out at the Garden. But if you want to support it, I'm sure you can go there and support some money for the Lufgard's Foundation, which, Dolan gets killed on a lot of stuff, but that Lufgarden Foundation, every dollar goes to it. He foots the bill on any costs. That you got to love. But maybe Steve Sharippa next week on the show. So that's my thought on the Rangers. That's where I think we're going. One last thing I'll bring up with the NBA is the deal. Adidas was the official company for the NBA shirts, jerseys, and all that kind of stuff. They will not pursue an extension of their apparel deal with the NBA. Partnership began in 2001. It's an 11-year extension in 2006. 5 years pretty much into Reebok's deal because Adidas ended up buying Reebok. Extension was worth $400 million. But right now, where the NBA is going with the TV and radio contracts, that $400 million is going to be blown away. My thought process, Nike and Under Armour, of course, those two are going to be fighting it out for it. And I think the winner is going to be the NBA. Because these two teams could go up to $1 billion for the rights, because they are talking about, and Adam Silver, the new commissioner, said this, they're thinking of putting patches, advertisement on jerseys. So if you do that, what kind of money is that going to bring to the team, to this deal? It's huge to have the NBA because it's 82 games a year. All those teams, they're playing constantly. They also play overseas. They also play in the Olympics. It's a big, big deal to have them as the apparel people. No doubt. So you keep an eye on that. The Nike and Under Armour are going to neck and neck, and someone's going to overpay because they believe it's worth it, and they're probably right. This will definitely, in my opinion, be close to $1 billion deal for the NBA and all the players as they deserve it. Amazing how quick it goes. I'm going to have to go. There's so much more on my plate, but I can't get to everything. We'll see you next week. I interviewed Bernard Hopkins. That's right, the great Bernard Hopkins. We'll have that tape. Mikey's working on it now, editing it, even though there's really not much to edit because it was such a great interview. But we will have that on next week's show. Maybe we'll put some tidbits up there for you to see before next week's show. This is Sports Biz with LD. I'm your host, Larry Davis.